Foreign businessmen in the country are also extending a helping hand in the massive rehabilitation program in disaster areas. Among them is a group of foreign chambers of commerce in the Philippines. This report by Freddy Abando.
2 months after the tragedy and tears left by Yolanda's fury, survivors in the devastated areas of eastern Visayas are slowly picking up the pieces of what's left of their possessions to start a whole new life. The good news, while relief operations is sustained, recovery is on the way. The government's recovery assistance of Yolanda is on the move with the reconstruction of temporary shelters. Support from the country's official development partners is a major boost.
I must say I'm struck by the degree to which there's been a very, very strong international response, and I think local governments have responded very well, and the national government under its new sort of recovery czar is become organized, and the Philippine private sector, and I say Philippine, I include the foreign companies that are in the Philippines and have been, like Shell is celebrating its 100th anniversary this month in the Philippines, and their foundations are also responding through the organization that was set up for that purpose.
The group of foreign chambers of commerce in the Philippines are committed to the recovery of the economy in the devastated areas. Early this week, Filipino companies pledged their support for RAY to be led by Rehabilitation Star Secretary Panfilo Lacson. Their commitment resources to build housing, schools, health centers, and to provide livelihood. The key to livelihood is the reopening of sari-sari stores, markets, and malls. Banks are back to normal operations.
There are companies which are, if they're not able to volunteer to be an area manager, they're volunteering resources per sector. So some companies are saying, I will support education, like school buildings, or I will support hospitals, or I will support livelihood, or I will support other programs. So there are already people coming in to say they'll step forward. We're in the process of working with Senator Lacson's staff and Undersecretary Dan Antonio how to put that all on a map so we know that it's evenly distributed. It's not all in one area and completely absent in others. So which is why there's a listing of actually 24, if you want to call it, zones.
A major contribution for foreign companies to the reconstruction efforts is to establish light industries. Tacloban City is emerging as the future site for a special economic zone to host these industries. Industries which will generate more jobs and contribute to the economic recovery of the city and Leyte province.
We do have a proposal that was put forth in a press conference. 20 business organizations, including the foreign chambers, on manufacturing. We have a specific proposal for domestic, economic, and export zones. In fact, yesterday when I was in Tacloban, I looked at an area which had been established by a decree in 1998, developed in terms of putting the civil works and the utilities and some standard factories. The minimum wage in eastern Visayas is about 250. So it's roughly half what it is here in the NCR. I think there's great potential for light industry there, and that will bring jobs, or if we can get the investors in. This is just the beginning of a program, but I understand it's being studied by the DTI, by the PEZA, and others in the government. It would really be an excellent way in eastern Visayas and in Panay and Bohol.
For the People's Television Network, this is Freddy Abando reporting.
Meanwhile, the business sector is hoping for a speedy resolution of the Meralco power rate hike issue. Well, again, Freddy Abando tells us why.
Until such time the Supreme Court resolves Meralco's proposed power rate adjustment, there is growing concern there is no guarantee that prices will remain at current levels. Worse, the burden to consumers is paying for higher electric bills. So how much time will it take the High Tribunal to hear the case and issue a ruling? In the meantime, Meralco has warned the freeze order could trigger rotating brownouts during the summer months when consumption is up. The power distributor said the TRO will impact on the supply chain for the entire electricity market at the expense of consumers. Several sectors of the private sector, local and foreign, called for a quick resolution of the case by the High Tribunal.
Meralco did not have to buy that energy at that high price, but they chose to. If they didn't buy it, there would have been blackouts when the Malampaya station was down, and then people would have been upset that there were blackouts. So we got upset at the price, but I don't think we have fully thought through that Wesson was, for most of the year, Wesson was actually selling on the spot market power that was quite inexpensive, and then it spiked when the Malampaya shutdown extended beyond what it was scheduled for. I think we should seriously think about what Meralco has told us and what Meralco is saying to the Supreme Court, that this issue, the TRO, has got to be changed. You know, one American company has asked to be paid. Companies that sold the power on the spot market to Meralco have to be paid. They in turn have to pay their suppliers. If you interrupt this chain, this whole chain, it's very, very risky.
6 power producers were named by the Supreme Court to be impleaded in the case. These companies are under investigation by the ERC for collusion, which led to the spike in power rates. They are the source of the power to be distributed by Meralco to its service areas. Abacata Party List Congressman Jonathan de la Cruz will file a new petition to include First Gen and the Malampaya Consortium to be impleaded by the court.
The Supreme Court is within its right to require the other power producers named as the major suppliers of Meralco to explain why they spike, but there was a spike in their prices as a result of this problem with Malampaya. There is one major power producer not included in those impleaded by Meralco, which is First Gen. So there has also to be a case made against that, because why should you exclude First Gen? They are also a major supplier of Meralco.
In the meantime, foreign business groups are cool to the proposal to amend the APIRA law, a move being pushed by the House and even Energy Secretary Jericho Padilla. The White's move is to build more power plants to ensure more supply as the economy grows. There is strong resistance against government getting back to the power business.
The private sector will not finance new power plants if it has to compete with the government. It's either one or the other. In the past, the government failed to provide enough power. And the government failed because one particular plant, or 2 projects, the Chico River Dam project was stopped, and the Bata nuclear power plant was stopped.
For the People's Television Network, this is Freddy Abando reporting.